Right, we'll give it one more minute. All right, it's 11:30 a.m. We are good to go. I'm going to hand over to my colleague Anup. Anup, good morning. Over to
Hi,
you.
good morning. Good morning, Kathy. Good morning, everyone joining us. It's a pleasure to have all of you all here. Um, so today's masterclass, the discussion is on building real AI fluency at work, powered by KNOLSKAPE. Um, and let's do a quick tech check before we start off. If all of you can hear me, the voice clearly, please give us a thumbs up. Or you can just put it on chat. You're able to hear us very clearly. Perfect, perfect. If you're able to see our screen, please give us a thumbs up or a yes. Thank you, thank you. There's a lot of yes, thank you. And if you're ready to learn and have fun today, that's more important. Please give us a thumbs up. Awesome, awesome. I can see the energy coming through. Um, let's get straight into the agenda. Let me just give you a context. So we are looking at about 60 minutes of a dialogue here. We'll give you an overview of the webinar. I'll quickly give you an introduction to KNOLSKAPE. Then we get into the AI and the future of work in terms of how that is spanned. We'll speak about the AI Academy overview of KNOLSKAPE, and then we can get into question and answers. Yeah. Um, It'll be great if you all can be really active on the chat, and we'll pick up as much as possible and help you, right? So yes, so these are the two people who will be helping you today through this session. Please meet Kathy Jain, who's a part of our partnerships and product team, and me, myself, Anup Valsan, who's a growth leader here at KNOLSKAPE. Yep. So just getting you started to give you an overview of who KNOLSKAPE is and what do we do. KNOLSKAPE is the world's largest experiential learning technology company. We are physically present in 5 countries, the Singapore, Malaysia. We just opened an office in Indonesia. We're in India, UK, and the US. And we also cater to about 75 plus countries through the presence of our partners and people on the ground. We work with one of the largest brands across the organization, say across the globe, largely say catering to all these regions very specifically. I'm talking about global brands who we work with. We can cater to multilingual support as well. We have simulations in multiple languages that we basically cater to. These are few of our trusted global brands across industries, right from ITITES to BFSI to manufacturing, automotive, pharmaceuticals, etc. We are been recognized globally through multiple the Brandon Hall Awards, the top 20 company in terms of learning the training industry, and we've been in the space of edtech for the last 15 years. Yeah. So who are we and what do we do? What is our core offerings, etc.? So we basically divide this into two major categories. One is core skills, um, which is the leadership readiness. We look at leadership readiness. It could be across, say, your first-time managers, your middle management training, high potential identification, assessments for leadership readiness, etc. that we cater to. We look at digital readiness, from analyzing how matured your organization is in the form of digital in various functions that you have, right to getting into application of these digital aspects, and then basically understanding the ROI of the entire program, right? We look at cultural readiness. We help organization build cultural readiness across functions. It could be, for example, it could be a culture of empathy, culture of collaboration, culture of innovation, etc., that we look at. So all of these are something that's readily available with us in terms of we could either do a plug and play. We have various simulations, multiple simulations in different languages that is available to cater to all of these three. That is the leadership readiness, digital readiness, and the cultural readiness. Then what we look at is the last couple of years have been very, very uh, difficult for both us and the industry as such, and the kind of clients that are the kind of requirements that the clients have are very niche and contextual. And that is how we brought in the capability of contextual skills. And when we look at contextual skills, we have the capability to build custom simulations addressing organizational readiness, industry readiness, and role readiness, right? Very specifically, it could be something like a, a first-time consultant who's coming into your organization. That is a role, and then you're expecting the particular individual to become billable right from at the earliest, right? And we can actually create a custom simulation very, very specifically to the role that you're expecting. We can create an entire simulation that goes through like a day in a life of these individuals, right? So that is something that we do. So these are two of our offerings, the core skills and contextual skills, right from leadership readiness to role readiness. Yeah. So let me ask you all a question, right? Since we're talking about AI fluency today, AI will not replace humans, but those who use AI will replace those who don't. Just let me know in the chat, what do you feel? Is it true or false? And Kathy, I think you can also. Uh,
Oh, I think this is true. Absolutely. I think the fight isn't between humans and machines. It's with humans that can start using the technology better. What about you, Anu?
Yeah, I think I feel it's true. Absolutely. Like you mentioned, I think it's just only going to help humans and not replace humans, right? And I think we have multiple people in the chat also answering, and I think everybody is leaning towards true. And I think we have the right audience here. Kathy, I think very understanding in terms of how that's going to go. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Kareem also found the source for the quote, which is the former IBM director. I think he'd spoken to the Time about how technology is changing, and that's when he brought this up. Good job, Kareem. Any faults though, before we start, the webinar and we move into the content, if anyone does think this is false or has some sort of internal debate about this, we'd love for you to bring it up and put it in the chat. It's a safe space, and we do want different perspectives coming in, so do let us know.
Sure, I think there's nobody who's saying false. So over
Yeah.
to you, Kathy, to take us.
Thank you, Anup. Um, so I think I want to kick off the webinar and speak a little bit more about AI by drawing attention to what's happening globally, right? I think in between 2023 and 2024, we saw a lot of regulation, a lot of demand for compliance from global entities for AI, right? The EU had a policy that came up. Singapore is working on a framework as well, and the US also is working on a draft policy, right, to manage risk and all the other issues that come up with AI usage in the corporate workspace. And the reason I wanted to bring this up is because earlier the focus was on compliance. It was on making sure that we're following the regulation. But if you look at the new mandates that are coming up in all of these policies, we're actually moving towards capability, right?
Yeah.
So most of these or governments or the ecosystem in general is now saying, hey, we know AI is not going anywhere. We know compliance is a non-negotiable, but we also want to build capability as part of it, right? For all of us on the call, we might be logging in from India, from parts of Southeast Asia, other parts of Asia. I think it's important to acknowledge what's happening around the world because we might have colleagues, we might have friends, we might have clients or prospects in these countries. So it's a global imperative that we start looking at these policies, reading them, and also looking at building capability in the context of these policies so that we're not behind. Right. So that was the intention of just walking through this. But let's look at something a little bit lighter. So I wanted to kind of recap the evolution of AI as we know it now, and I'm not talking about shadow AI like Siri or Alexa that we've been using for years,
Yeah.
but the chats, the new software that's coming up with AI. Anup, if you remember in late 2022, early 2023, ChatGPT was around. It was in the news. They had their
Yeah.
first model that came out, very basic, right? But everyone was kind of curious. They're like, "Oh, what's this new technology? Can I play with it a little bit? Can I read a
Yeah.
little bit more about it?" And then by mid 2023, we'd seen a couple updates.
Yeah.
Copilot had launched, and a Gemini had launched, and there was a lot of concern because if you remember, there was those videos as well that were now surfacing that were made using AI, looked very lifelike, but were actually fake.
Correct.
Right. 2024 then was the year of regulation, which is where all the global entities, governments, you had think tanks releasing so much research on what's going to happen, how this will affect us. Still early days though, because we're still,
Yeah.
2.5 years into this new transformation. And as we move to 2025, based on our research, based on the conversations that Anup, you and I have been having,
Yeah.
our sense is that it's moving towards building capacity and building capability, right?
True. Yeah.
And that's where I think we are at. So I'd love to hear from the audience as well in terms of where you are, right? And what you think is working, whether you're still concerned about it, you're still thinking about regulation as L&D, or you've already started thinking about building capability for yourself or within your organizations, right? And Anup, my question to you is, we work in an AI first organization where a lot of the work that we do is with AI, is about AI.
Yeah.
So what's your journey been like? When did you really start dabbling with this new technology and start using it extensively?
So to be uh, so I think about 8 to 10 months, Kathy.
Okay.
Yeah, that's when we actually started using certain tools to automate tasks, to run campaigns for qualification
Mm.
on leads,
Mhm.
etc. Right? So we use it while we are not restricting ourselves only to say create wow emails. I think
Yeah.
that's a starting point for everybody. But then I think we need to. I think it's time that we moved away from it. Just not for that, right? To actually help
Mhm.
you manage work efficiently and effectively, right? So these are few of the things that we're using AI today in, right?
And I'm glad you said that because I think a lot of people are still thinking about it as something that can help with, small productivity gains. But for you, as someone who's been using it for almost a year, I
Yeah,
myself started my journey in late 2022 with AI. We've had a little bit of time to get accustomed to learn about it.
yeah,
But with the pace at which this technology is evolving, I don't think that it's prudent to now use a trial and error method only to learn. I think there has to be something structured within organizations. I think there has to be some sort of push top down to start learning and building capability outside of the tech teams as well.
yeah.
So I think that's what the imperative is going to be. And I think we're going to see that as a trend moving forward.
True.
Right? And the
Absolutely.
reason for that is because the current system doesn't ask whether you like AI. It's saying, hey, it's here, it's not going anywhere. It's asking whether your people can control it or you can control it or you know how to leverage it. And I think as L&D, we're in a very, very interesting space in the history of, let's say, the work that we've done, because for the first time, we're actually getting to lead um, L&D in a way that can boost productivity or really transform business by transforming people. So it becomes
Yeah,
very key in change management.
absolutely. with you. Yeah.
So Anup, what also happens is when we look at different reports, right, that are coming out, I think businesses in general are acknowledging that AI is going to transform them, right? 82% of all businesses have already identified that. They know it's going to happen at some point.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is 22% of all the businesses don't actually feel talent ready. Now, you're on the ground quite a bit.
Yeah.
You're speaking to different stakeholders day in and day out. Does that number, 22%, does that resonate with you? Do you think it's accurate?
I think pretty much, Khyati, if I have to put it, say, um,
Mhm.
1 out of 5 people say the same thing, right? That they are ready, but most of them aren't, right?
Yeah.
There's always that ambiguity in terms of
Mhm.
how to go about it, whether my talent is ready for it, how is it going to be taken internally, right? Those communication. So it's just not about getting a technology going for you, but then when you are doing something new, it's very similar, right? Change management. The first thing
Mhm.
that you would want is to build trust in something that you want to do, right? So I see that, and I think these numbers pretty much resonate with the things that's on the ground.
Absolutely. I agree. I think a lot of organizations, and we ran this webinar in the European region as well with North American participants. And we did realize that 1 in 5 is actually a very good representation of organizations that are thinking about AI, right? Could
Yeah.
be many different factors that contribute to that. But it's still early days, it's still slow. And that push is kind of picking up momentum now. Right. And I do want to speak a little bit more about what the barrier is and why we aren't moving forward. And I'd love to hear from the audience as well on what stops you from really implementing AI or running that training that you want, that you think will work with your audience, right? Because we have the tools, we have the technology, we have access to it. There are those freemium models where you get certain tokens for free or you get a certain usage for free. Some of us pay for these tools as well. Organizations pay for our tools as well. So the tools being available is not the problem anymore. Um, but in your experience, I know what's missing when you go out and speak to CXOs and L&D leaders. What is stopping them from actually putting these tools to use or putting this technology to use?
I think there are various things that actually come in, Kathy, but I think the top two is always in terms of uh, don't know where to start. Like how
Okay.
uh, there's no clear pathway to actually
Hmm.
begin this, right? And then it's always around the guardrails, right? In terms of data privacy, in terms of infosec, etc. This
Hmm.
is something that always plays out with leaders when we speak, right? So across industries, like it's not very specifically in the ITES or the BFSI, right? So BFSI has multiple regulations, regulatory bodies, but I think across, I think this is the concern. It could be the GCCs, it could be the ITITES,
Hmm.
manufacturing, etc. I think largely that is where these are the two major things that actually come up.
And Reena in the chat, I think, agrees with you as well. She's just said that data privacy is a very big concern in heavily regulated industries. And I couldn't agree more. I think it does depend industry to industry. So we will see IT as kind of still being a step ahead of everyone else when it comes to, implementation.
Yeah.
And Kriti also asked us, what are the skills that AI ready, talent ready organizations are looking at. So Kriti, we'll come to that in a little bit. We actually have a full slide with
Yeah.
what skills we think are important. So we will be answering that question. Ashley's mentioned data privacy. So I think that's also that's the second time that we're seeing that. But yeah, I think and then we have Shivaranjani, who said that knowledge of tools is also an issue. So not just availability of tools, but knowledge of the tools as well. So maybe picking the right tool, how to use it. And Melinda, to your point on, you know, um, how to use the tools, I think we have to look beyond using just GPT. I think Anup was also speaking about automations and making sure that the work that we're doing with AI is going beyond, hey, edit this email for me or make it more professional. So I think that also needs to be looked at, and we will be showing you a few examples of what that work could be. And
And Kathy,
yes.
just to add on here, right? Because I see a
Mhm.
lot of people talking about data privacy. Yes, it's an issue,
Mhm.
but today Nolscape has implemented products with AI in large organizations, global
Mhm.
organizations, right? There's always so if there is not something that's not in place, it's always an opportunity for them also to bring in something, right? Create
Mhm.
those guardrails and work, right? So actually, it's worked, and we've launched multiple AI-based simulations globally, right? So there's always a starting point. It's just that we need to bring people together, the right people together. It could be your data privacy team or the say the infosec team, etc. So I think sitting across the table and then discussing what should be the guardrails, and I think we have come to those consensus, right? So we have that experience and we've done that. So I just wanted to add this. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, it's interesting, Anu, because when we started that journey with building those simulations, you were actually a key non-tech member that was involved in
Yeah.
spearheading this with the client. So for those of you on the call, I think if there's someone that you should be speaking to about this, Anup is the right person, because he's been working closely with clients for more than a year now on implementing such technology. But I agree with you, Anup, and I think everyone in the audience as well. There is a fear of misuse. We don't necessarily have an idea of what those guardrails are. And there's no clear starting point, even within organizations, for roles.
Yeah.
For example, Anup, there is a little bit of an overlap in what you and I do in terms of growth and partnerships, but our use cases for how we use AI is very different, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's very important to kind of demarcate which role requires what kind of support in implementing the technology or learning it. Building uh, areas for safe experimentation so that that builds confidence, then that further builds fluency.
Yeah.
So I think it's very important. And of course, then there are resources that you can give to your learners
Yeah.
in terms of guided prompts, application frameworks. Now, this is very Gen AI specific, not necessarily workflow process and automation specific, but it definitely helps and is a good starting point.
Yeah.
So now, Anup, what we're going to share next actually is a culmination of a lot of research that we've been doing for months,
Hmm.
internally as well, learning from our journey on how we've implemented AI,
Yeah.
and also just speaking to different clients that you work with and I work with to understand what their aspirations are. And
Yeah.
we've come up with something called an AI fluency curve, right? As with all change management, here as well, we know that change management or transformation will happen in phases, right? So we've split this into 4 phases because we saw between 2022 and now how our organization also became more AI forward, especially when it came to the kind of products and the technology that we were using for our services,
Yeah.
right? So there are 4 phases within the AI adoption curve. The first one is awareness, where your organization is now just getting curious and learning about Gen AI. There's a few people in the team that are now really using it for their work, right? In a more personal, individual contribution capacity, maybe.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, Phase two is application. This is where there's a few teams, maybe a few people that have now started to formalize workflows and usage and
Hmm.
is looking at transformation within small pockets
Yeah.
using AI. Phase three is integration. This is when you have a leader coming and saying, hey, my whole department, we're going to transform what we do using AI. And phase four, of course, is transformation, where your whole enterprise, your whole organization is now looking at how they can integrate AI into their operations, their strategy, their product, their customer experience. Right. So everything really is changing with that. Now, I know phase four for most of us or a lot of us is very aspirational, but Anup, I wanted to understand from you when you speak to clients, what's your sense? Where are most of the clients or most of the organizations in APAC right now when we look at these 4 phases?
So, Kathy, this is very interesting, right? So, when the AI wave came in, right,
Mm.
there was a lot of people who wanted to do a
Mm.
wait and watch game. right?
Mhm.
Just to see whether this is going to stay, where is it taking, etc. Is
Mhm.
somebody else using it, etc., and all of that, right?
Mhm.
So already people have started late, right? And now to your question, I think people are still between that awareness to application. I think, and I feel about 70% of the people that I speak to is still in that awareness aspect. And the reason I say that is it's not just about knowing what AI can do and what are the tools that are there, but also in terms of how can you actually implement it in your work, your function. It could be supply chain, it could be finance, it could be HR, right? So that is something that's missing. And that's why I say that most of them are between that awareness to application part of it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Makes sense, makes sense. And I think it's also industry dependent, you'll see organizations like Google and Microsoft, Amazon also maybe that are leading the charge with developing tech that are maybe in phase four, have
Yeah.
hit phase four. So a lot of ITES clients, but the minute you move into BFSI or manufacturing, they're still kind of in phase one and phase two.
Yeah.
So that's been my understanding. But we'd love to hear from the audience as well. So we have a small poll coming up. Do tell us where you are in your AI journey within your organization. And then you can let us know in the comments as well what that looks like and, why you gave yourself that score. And for those of you that are in phase four, if there's anyone on the call, we'd love to hear from you and hear what L&D is doing in order to make sure that you're thriving in phase four or how you even got there. It'll be interesting for the rest of us to learn from you. All right, 36% have answered in the chat. We're going to give it another minute. In the meantime, Anup, we did have Reena ask us if we could host we can host data privately for AI. Reena, there are ways, there are certain models that allow you to host your data on another server, not on the organization that builds the AI, their server. So there are ways, honestly, that you can build privacy with AI. Of course, these are slightly expensive measures. Organizations do invest a lot of money. I know internally also cloud costs are something that we look at, right? So it is possible. It's my answer to you. We will be stopping the poll now, bringing up results. So, Anup, results are up and they mimic what you had just said as well, right? Phase one
Yeah.
and phase two.
True.
So we have 49% in the application phase, 36% in phase one, and 3% in phase four. So the two people in the audience that have actually said phase four, please do tell us what you're doing and how L&D has contributed to that change. We'd love to hear and learn from you. And we have a few comments as well, Anu, in the chat, where people are telling us what's been happening in their organization for AI, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Where so any thoughts on how L&D can really support business?
So I think this example is how L&D comes in, and I think we've seen multiple leaders, L&D leaders, using AI to create personalized learning paths, right?
Mhm.
That is something that's something that we recently implemented as well, right? So how we can use AI to create personalized learning paths, etc.,
Mhm.
is something that is been a part of discussions, multiple discussions that I've had. And also, other than that, we were also looking at bringing in real-time experiences with AI, right? Like for organizations in terms of roles and functions that you do. Uh, where does it lead to? It basically leads us to the kind of simulations, the real-time experience that we provide, right? So that is also somewhere L&Ds are using the AI side of it, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. I agree. I think even internally, we've realized that personalization has been, I think, one of the biggest drivers for L&D while using AI. And I love in the chat how, we have Nikshit telling us that they're looking at different AI tools for different departments, Nikshit. And I think we do the same thing internally. We also have an AI labs team that works on supporting different departments differently with AI. And I think that in our experience, that works really well. So I'm with you there. And then we have Howard in the chat. I hope I'm saying your name right. That's looking at launching an AI academy, so you're in the right place. We'll be speaking a little bit more about our offering as well. Um, and then Swati telling us she's in between phase two and phase three. Um, in my experience, I think that jump is the highest, right? Getting people in silos using a certain technology to getting the whole department to use it. So that a transition is, I think it takes a little bit longer, Swati, but if you're already there, I'm assuming you're on the right track, you're doing something right. Um, and Anup, just on Haley's comment, right, where she's saying that things are moving so quickly that um, AI is that with AI that L&D is also having a very hard time keeping up to date with what's happening.
Yeah.
Have you heard something like that in your conversations? Do you have L&D people saying, "Hey, this is too much. I don't know how to keep up. I don't know where to start."
Yeah, so I do. So we look at it, or what do I tell my
Mhm.
clients are to actually work backward, right? So
Mhm.
yes, we do not have control of the changing times in AI, and it's true. There's a lot of developments coming in, a lot of tools coming in,
Mhm.
etc. It could be very, very overwhelming, right?
Mhm.
So instead of tracking that, let's look at solving two, three problems, right? To just get
Yeah.
started. In your previous slides, you're talking about one thing that caught my eye was to start small, pilot, right?
Mhm.
Trial and error, right?
Yeah.
Experimentation. I can name multiple synonyms, right? But then what I'm getting to is that let's look at identifying one or two areas that we want to implement AI and then stick to that and see what is the results, right? And that way
Mhm.
you get that confidence of implementing this in larger programs,
Yeah.
larger projects that you have as an L&D,
Mhm.
right? So so I would say, just to summarize this, do not look at multiple tools, what's happening in AI, a lot of things coming in, what can I integrate and things. Instead, look at your problem statement and then see what is the suited thing, right? Just start off with experimentation with one or two projects, and that will really help you. Uh, and you'll start learning, right? You'll become humans are smarter. That is something that I always think. So then we will always find a way around it, right? And yeah, so that's my take, Kathy.
Thanks for that, Anup. And I agree with you. I think start small, start intentional.
Yeah.
And that's how it works. But let's move on to the components that lead to AI transformation. So, to move from one phase to the other within that curve, we've identified four key levers
Yeah.
that facilitate that transition. And all four of those levers come into play at some point or the other, right? So, in our experience, you can't really ignore any of them. The first one being people. So, helping your people build fluency, build capability. Second is processes. How do I ensure that my internal operations are changing to incorporate human AI collaboration or to incorporate certain tools?
Yeah.
Third is the tools itself, the tech stack that we've been speaking about now, and we know that there's so many changes happening every few weeks.
Yeah.
And the last one is the strategy. So the almost like the guiding document or the North Star that your organization is working towards long term, and how AI contributes to that or integrates into that. Now, Anup, um, when you speak to different organizations that are actually going through AI transformation right now,
Hmm.
um, is there any specific lever, any specific area that they're over indexing on or they're ignoring in your experience across these four?
I think ignoring is the first one. I think people. I think it's people have taken for granted. Listen, it's basically the expectation, right? So individuals to pick
Mm,
up AI, learn, understand. It's just how interested you are, and obviously there are organizations who help people as well. But then largely, it's always been the focus is on what's the process, what do I do, what are the
mm,
technologies, what is my architecture, strategy, etc. Right?
mm,
This is what people talk about, and less of people, right? Which
mm,
ideally should be the first one that they speak about, right? The readiness
mm,
of people. Yeah, that's
mm.
what I hear, Kathy.
I couldn't agree more with you, Anup. I think even in the conversations we've had together, or I've had with other clients, they've got the process, they've got the technology, they've got the strategy in place, and now they're like, okay, now we look at the people.
Yeah,
It's almost like an afterthought, as opposed to how we looked at it, where we said, okay, let's upskill people first, because then your processes, technology, and strategy will fall into place, right? As
yeah,
soon as the CXO knows how to use AI, your strategy will anyway be sound. So, like in my experience, I think the training has to be done first before we move into actually changing our ways of working.
yeah.
Or it has to be done in tandem. So I think that's been one of my key learnings from this. Um, Even in the audience, if you have any thoughts on which lever y'all are working towards, if you've been able to crack that people lever, or you have a way where you've been able to optimize all four, we'd love to hear from you, understand what your organization is doing. And I think Swati mimics our sentiment here, where she says it's important to scale talent with AI. So the two almost go hand in hand. Now, no, we are L&D leaders, L&D enthusiasts. We do this for a living. So I want to, in our call today, focus specifically on the people lever, right? That's where we're experts at. Um, so I want to understand from you, what is the importance of tailoring learning needs even for something like AI fluency, right? Do you think that it's important to look at very specific training for learners, levels, roles, domains when we look at AI fluency?
Absolutely. Absolutely, Kathy.
Mm,
It is a need, right? You really don't want multiple people, say you don't want people going through multiple trainings, right? Already there is AI, the tools, technology is already overwhelming. So it becomes very, very important that you have a clear learning journey that you create, right? Right from, say, if you're a beginner, you do this, you're an intermediate, you do this, and then if you're an advanced, you do this, right? And it's very important. And I think role, domain, and industry becomes very, very important here.
absolutely. Like someone that's looking at growth for insurance as opposed to someone that's looking for growth in the SaaS space will have two very different requirements, and then obviously someone in customer success and someone in finance would have two very different requirements.
Hmm.
So I agree with you, in terms of wanting to customize the learning itself and finding a solution that's scalable across different roles and different domains within your organization. Pinky brings up a very important point. She says that the practical challenge is to upskill people and create interest. Which Anup, I think leads back to a larger issue where we're still seeing a lot of resistance to using AI. I've heard people, a lot of people when we go into meetings saying, yeah, but we don't need it, we can do it faster ourselves, or no, I don't want to use it, I'll just use my calculator, my brain is better, I don't want to slow it down. So I think that resistance also comes from fear, from not knowing that your training has to manage. So I think
Exactly.
that's,
So I think
yeah.
this again takes me back to what I said, right? I think building
Mhm.
trust while there's a change that's coming in. I think
Mhm.
that becomes very, very important. How we are able to communicate this to
Mhm.
our employees, right? That becomes very, very
Mhm.
important. Yep.
Absolutely. And I know initially the audience had also asked what are the skills required, right? When we
Yep.
look at people specifically, Anup, we've identified these five skills. Starting with tool proficiency all the way to ethical considerations, these five bucket areas we
Mm.
think will build confidence, capability, when it comes to AI fluency, right? Tool proficiency being the first one. Can I use the tools for myself? Can I identify the right tools for myself and for my team or for my peers? But I think it's very important to move past that,
Yeah.
right? Generative AI for personal use is one use case, but the minute we want to start inculcating a mindset where we're thinking about systems, we're thinking about the larger use cases, you need the
Mm.
other four skills.
Yeah.
And in my experience, what's happening is a lot of people are focusing extensively on, okay, how do I use this tool effectively? Which tool do I use? As opposed to building a mindset which is almost like a growth mindset for AI, you know?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts, Anu? What is your experience when it comes to development of these skills in the market or with different clients that you work with?
I think largely, I think you put it in the right way, Kathy, right? All of these here are very, very important. But what I hear when more, right, when we speak to
Mhm,
leaders, etc., is the kind of human AI collaboration. That is something
mhm,
that is spoken a lot. I think not. I think always there's a lot of governance talking, ethical considerations, etc. That's always been there. But I think AI human collaboration is something that everybody is interested in, and they're actually looking and speaking about. Right? Yeah.
mhm. Absolutely. I agree. I agree. I think all five skills are very important.
Yeah.
And even within our AI Academy and our solution, we try and inculcate these skills, not just through knowledge, but through experience.
Mm.
So we speak a little bit more about that. And I know there's a few comments in the chat. I will take them up, Shelley and Melinda, in a bit. But let's move on in the interest of time. So now within our AI Academy, how we do this is through a four-step learning process, right? Where we start by evaluating what is the current readiness level, what is the current learner levels at different levels within the organization. That's, I think, key, right? Because there will be people that are far ahead. There are people who need a little bit more hand-holding. Then we take them through education, where the knowledge transfer happens. We move into experience, and this is, I think, where the rubber hits the road, and also is a very unique selling point for KNOLSKAPE, where we don't just stop at static e-learning for AI, where we tell you, okay, this is what a large language model is, this is what a RAG is, this is what an API integration is, but we also help you identify use cases in your workplace where you can apply this, right? And then enablement is, of course, that very detailed report that you get based on the simulation. So you know exactly what you're doing well, what you're not. Um, and also in some cases an AI enabled code so that you can go back and keep asking questions about what's working, what's not working, or how to implement it. And all of this in a very safe space where your data is not going back to the AI provider. It's on either your on our server or your server as well, right?
Yeah.
So we're making sure that that privacy is taken care of. Now, Anu, before I get your thoughts on this, we do have a poll for the audience, just to understand where you are with your learning for AI within your organization. So do tell us what's going on within your teams. But Anup, just to understand from you as well, when you speak to different clients, when you speak to different stakeholders, what are their thoughts on learning for AI? Where are some pitfalls that they're actually falling into, where learning is stagnating or it's not growing as much as they would like?
So Kathy, I feel most of the organizations, if I look at the framework here, right,
Mhm. Mhm.
is in they stop at educate, right?
Okay.
Evaluate and to an extent and educate, right?
Mhm.
But the crux of it is post that, right? How are you able
Yeah.
to experience it? How are you able to enable these people? That's
Mhm.
more important, right? And I think that is where the problem is. Most of uh, most of the organizations feel that let's educate and then we have achieved that, right? But then the objective does not is not met because
Mhm.
there's a bit of a void, right? And I think this is really great. I think this is I would like to call it like more of a performance framework, right? Like you're able to
Yeah.
really bring in right from evaluating to able
Mhm.
to enable them, right? So that's very, very
Mhm.
important. So that's what I feel, Kathy. I think between that, they stop at educate, and that's the problem. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you use the word performance, and I think that's key, right?
Yeah.
It's building not just learning, but learning for performance, learning to perform, I think becomes very, very important.
Yeah.
As with all other skills, I think we have to treat AI the same. We'll give it 10 more seconds. I know that about 60% of you have answered the poll. And let's look at the results post that. All right, I think we can bring up the results and then we can move on. I am very excited to show everyone how we build that experience layer within the academy. Um, what's interesting here, Anu, with the results is that we've got almost um, a similar split across all four responses, if you see, right? Where everyone is kind of looking at either doing one-off sessions, thinking about a little bit of mixed training. But what's heartwarming for me is that 32% are actually doing continuous role-specific training for
Yeah.
AI.
Yeah.
And when we run this webinar with the European and American audience,
Hmm.
you'd be surprised the number was actually different. So we had about 30 to 40% of the audience say that they haven't actually started training for AI. So I'd be very interested in the next few months to also see how those regional differences play out.
Yeah.
But in general, Anupan, you can tell me if you agree. I think APAC is a little bit far ahead as a region when it comes to just their outlook towards AI and their curiosity on wanting to use it. I think that's a little bit higher in this region.
Absolutely, absolutely, Kathy, bang on it. I feel the same. I
Mhm.
think the APAC is a little bit more welcoming,
Yeah.
right? So I feel that, and also the kind of talent that is there
Mhm.
in this side, I feel it is really pushing the limits, right? They want to do something new, they want to do things better. And I think that's the
Mhm.
reason we see that shift, the geo shift, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, what I wanted to do was I wanted to speak a little bit about the three flagship simulations that we have within the academy. We have we started with three products, right? We've got AI Edge, which is for anyone that's beginning their AI journey. So we're helping people build mindsets to really think about using AI responsibly, confidently in their work, right? Tool agnostic for now because it is tools are changing quite frequently. So it is something that builds that skill, that muscle almost. AI Elevate similarly is one for first-time managers and team leaders. And then we've got AI Leader, which is for functional heads and CXOs, so that you can look at strategy, you can look at transformation, you can look at how it impacts the overall business. So individual capability is the first one. Second one is team management in the context of this change. And the third one is really driving that change across the organization and across the business. So at each level, we do have different solutions for teaching AI. And, the simulations almost serve as a base for different organizations, and we can customize based on the roles and industries. So you are getting a very personalized learning experience as well.
Yeah.
Now, in the interest of time, what I'm going to do, Anup, is I'm going to bring up the simulation that we have.
Yeah.
And I do want to take everyone through that and show them how this works out. So what's going to happen, everyone in the audience, is that I'm going to set the context for you with the simulation. Um, and once that's been done, I do want you to participate and play. So once the simulation because it's conversational, it will be throwing questions at us. We will take one or two questions, but I do want you to answer in the chat. I will see your answers in the chat and then put them into the simulation so you can get a sense of what it's like if you were to play it or your learner was to play it. And of course, after that, if you want a demo, then Anoop and I are more than happy to meet with you post this session to walk you through it. So we'd be looking at AI Elevate today, the simulation that is for managers. That's the middle level simulation that we have. So let's begin, right? So you'll notice that this simulation also has conversational AI characters where you are interacting with AI. It's speaking to you. It's telling you about what you're going to be doing. So we're first setting the context where you're working for an organization called Luminaire, and you are a senior manager. You're looking at managing an operations team. And within the operations team, you've got 3 team members. So we will be interacting with the different people within this org chart throughout the simulation. So it's conversational. It really mimics, like you said, Anup, the day in the life of for a modern worker. Every simulation is driven by certain objectives. So you've got 2 objectives here. One is AI capability development for your teams, and the other one is implementation impacts. Have you been able to drive implementation within your teams? And then we set the context within this where we take you through the UI UX. Now, in this simulation, Anup, what I've done is I've skipped the first scenario. It was very basic. It was speaking more about the organization itself and its vision. And I've taken the second scenario within the simulation that we're going to be playing, right? Which is essentially on challenges with implementing AI in different use cases, right?
Yeah.
So we have an email coming in where one of our team members, who's a senior operations assistant, is asking for a progress report and a summary within a presentation slide. So they've given us this summary, right, where they've said that the project is advancing at unparalleled pace. We've hit all critical milestones, and we've been able to integrate AI into our analytics system as well within 2 weeks, right, which is extraordinary. Then we can say that they've also talked about the recent product launch and how it's had very, very good outcome, very good feedback, 15% increase. They've seen a lot of revenue coming in as well. And then obviously their Q4 performance has also been great. You're being asked to review this email. The email has been written by AI even within the simulation. So you have a team member saying, hey, I got AI to generate the simulation through the insights that we have. What do you think? So in the audience, I'd love to hear from you. If you got an email from your team member like this, how would you respond? What would you tell them to do? Would you ask them to check this email? Would you ask them to send it as it is? Would you ask them to rewrite it? What would your response be? Anyone in the chat? Okay. Aksha says rewrite it. We have one rewrite. Beck is saying check it. I'd be curious to understand why you're asking to review and tweak it. If you could also tell me why. So I am going to tell Sophie. I have to excuse my typing.
On a lighter note, maybe tweak it because you don't want plagiarism now. So it doesn't tools that pick up.
So you'll notice within this, I can't copy paste. I can't essentially also, I have to type my answer out. There is a minimum word requirement as well for this. They're saying to check for bias. Okay, I'm sending a small response now. Would have liked to send a longer one. Shelley saying run it through Quiltbot to enhance human touch. So you're just using AI to do more work. It's interesting. Nikshit has picked up on this. The context may not be precise. So Sophie comes back and says, thanks for highlighting this. I will make the changes. This makes me bring up a concern that I've noticed with the team where they're essentially able to use AI tools effectively, but a few of them are making mistakes, right? And one person is just stealing all the bandwidth when it comes to using the AI tool. So what should we do? Now she's asking us. Any responses to this one, right? Where one person in the team knows how to use it and is using it extensively while the others are struggling or are not able to produce the right output. How would you manage that for yourself or for your teams? Any answers in the chat? I'm going to wait for you to give me responses. What about you, Anup? How would you manage this if you had one person that was basically using all the tools and the others were not doing anything at all?
I think it's time for retrospection, right? Like just
Hmm.
look at ways of peer learning, make it available. I think initiate that, have a discussion with somebody who's an expert to bring in, share some knowledge.
Okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And Swati said the same thing as well in the chat, where she said that we should get this person to start doing a knowledge transfer session so that everyone's on the same page. So I'm going to say, can we ask Lucas to do a knowledge transfer session so everyone is on the same page? Oh, sorry about my typing.
And Kathy, the fascinating thing about this is conversational, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
So
I
Anup,
can, yeah, please go on.
yeah, I mean, we've played this simulation different multiple times, and I've always gotten different questions within the same scenario. So the context remains the same, right?
Uh-huh.
But the kind of questions that the AI asks me will be different depending on my response.
Hmm.
Um, and that's the beauty of it. The simulation really meets you where you are or where your learners are. So you and I would actually be going through the same scenario or the same storyline within the simulation, would be interacting very, very differently with the simulation. And I'll stop here for now. Bring up the report, the PPT, and to just show you the report that comes out of this experience, right? So when you've gone through the simulation experience, you've played the simulation, there are different scenarios that have come up.
Mhm.
You are ranked on those two goals that you have, and we also look at different competencies, right?
Hmm.
So you get an overall score, you're given a score across the competencies, and then we tell you what your score is, what it means, and there is a deep dive also within the report where we're telling you why you got that score and what you can do better. So it's really helping the learner introspect, and it's also helping the L&D person or the manager at a group level see where the team is, because we can also produce group reports. And Anup, you were instrumental in bringing this to the organization as well, the communication analysis,
Yeah.
where let's say if I make a typo or I'm not communicating effectively, the simulation will also give me clarity on that. So I think it really does take it a step further in terms of the kind of feedback that you get, and the kind of insight and the learning that it provides, which, like you rightfully said, other e-learning tools don't.
Yeah. And Kathy, one question to you is, while we have this
Mhm.
certain like the scenarios that you took us through, can this become contextual to organizations in their,
Absolutely.
yeah?
Absolutely, it can. I think, and this is a conversation that we have day in and day out. We've got recruitment or training scenarios within the simulation. We can change those, right? We can change those to meet your requirements. Let's say if you're working in insurance, you're working in manufacturing, and you have very specific use cases, that base simulation can be changed to meet your requirements. It will still be conversational, but the kind of problems that the simulation will throw at the learners will be very specific to their role and domain. So that can be done.
Oh, brilliant. That's good. Yeah. And that would really
Now,
help. Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely. And I think that's the intention, right? Making learning very contextual. Now, I'm aware of the mindful of the time, and I know that we have about 3 minutes before we close out the webinar. So I did want to get a sense from the audience on whether they had any questions for us, any comments, any feedback on the simulation itself, on the AI Academy, anything that you're doing really well that you want to share with us, or if you'd want to have a chat with us, that's also fine. We do have a small feedback poll to understand what you liked, what you didn't, if you'd like to speak to us a little bit further. And lastly, do give us any other topics that you'd want to learn about from us, or hear from the KNOLSKAPE team on. All of the webinar topics that we've come up with have actually come from recommendations that you give us in the previous session. So please, please do give us feedback on what you think.
I think feedback is very, very important, Kathy. With the pace that things are
Mhm.
moving and how we are
Mhm.
developing multiple simulation, I think feedback is very, very important for us.
Absolutely. And I think we do want to scale and really take our learning from what we've done with AI for our clients, for ourselves, and bring it to a larger audience. Kareem, I see you asking us for a demo test. Our team will be in touch with you on how to conduct that. If you want to do a small pilot within your organization, I think that's also possible. Um, Meenakshi, Reena, Malini, thank you. Nikshit, thank you so much for joining in. All your insights were very, very valuable. You were very interactive during the session as well. So thank you for that. Um, and then we have Chandrini Ghosh, who's also asking us how email writing skills can be improved using AI for specific areas. So Chandrini, I mean, there's obviously tools out there, but if you're looking at very specific use cases on communication using AI, I think do get in touch with our team. Our simulations have different input formats, all the way from um, audio to text, over chat, over email as well. So we can help you customize scenarios to make sure that your team's written communication skills for AI are improving in that context. And you will get very detailed reports post the simulation as well, so that you can understand whether your learners have actually picked up on that content or not. I love Swati's comment, Anup. AI is like
I
a
just read
chocolate.
that.
Once you start tasting it, there's no stopping. Swati, I couldn't agree more. I went from being a very casual user to a power user. I don't think I go a day without using AI at this point. So on that, I'm actually gonna use that one. Sudarshan also has a question for us. Can this platform be used as an interactive platform to develop leaders in some selected competencies that is contextual to our org? Absolutely, Darshan, we can. We do have the capability to customize our current simulations for you. We also have the capability to build something specifically for your organization, right? So whichever route you want to take, it can be done. And we do have a beautiful solution for leaders. Just a small secret, I played it myself a few days ago and I found it very difficult. And I'm someone who uses AI extensively. So it does really challenge your learner at whatever level you want them to be, right? So our team again will be in touch with you. We will set up time with you to walk you through that in a little bit more detail. Shivranjani also has a comment for us, Anu, where she wants to know how AI can support L&D in helping businesses thrive. Shivranjani, you're at the right place. You're speaking to the right people. Anup and I and the rest of the team will be in touch with you. We will tell you how we've been using AI to support L&D, and hopefully you can take that back to your organization.
I think Swati has one. Yes, it can be
Yes.
integrated, Swati, to LMS, LXPs. We can
Yeah.
do multiple API or single sign-on integrations are
Mhm.
possible.
Yeah, we've got Scrum packages as well. So it really depends. Tech is not the issue. Dr. Kareem is saying Gen Z are different. You have specific simulations for them. So Dr. Kareem, we've been using a few of our simulations now with Gen Z audience. We've been getting very good feedback. However, with that being said, if your organization has specific requirements to train a younger workforce, I think we can look into that as well. There's really no limit to how much we can innovate around the solution that we have. Lucina, our team will be in touch with you. We also look forward to collaborating, learning about what you're doing, and supporting you. Dr. Kareem, you're in a very interesting place. 32% of your audience is Gen Z. That number is only going to go up. In fact, there was a very interesting report, I think, that came out yesterday. One of the consulting firms is released on millennial and Gen Z work styles. So I would implore you to check that out. It was doing rounds on my LinkedIn. I've lost the name, though. Just reminded me of all right, I think with that, we are 3 minutes over time. We will close out the session. Thank you, everyone, for joining in. We really hope that this was helpful. You took something back. And if there's anything that you want to learn over and above about how we're using AI to actually build AI fluency, do get in touch with our team. We'd love to share our findings with you and share a little bit more about our solutions with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Anup. Thank you, everyone. I'm
Thank you,
stopping
Swati.
my screen share and we will be dropping off. Thank you, listeners.